I
external
guess
cam,
so.
Ken, or are you using your computer's webcam?
The webcam for audio,
No, for video.
for video. Yeah. Oh no, it's I bought a like a 4D uh O spot.
Hmm,
It's actually I should be able to zoom in and out with just like hand motions.
interesting. Fun.
And it actually I don't set it to follow me, but it will follow you too if you're doing like YouTube video.
It helps. It helps if you know how to use the technology you buy.
Well, I just shut it off. I just shut it off because it's just all any video I do is usually just the talking head
Have you tried
video,
like your iPhone? Just see if that works.
straight ahead. Yeah.
Bruce, when I first met you, you were such a nice person. You've really, you've really, you've really matured into the man I hoped you'd be.
Yes. All right, guys. It is, I think it's time. Melissa, go ahead and turn on the recording, please.
Alrighty.
Welcome to our amazing agents and investors nationwide. Today is Thursday, January 25th, 2024. And this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 464. I wanted to start with just a brief summary of a conversation I had yesterday with Aaron Wittenstein. He's one of our longtime subscribers. I think Aaron's probably one of the most proficient prospectors I've ever known. And the guy is just disciplined, consistent, and he's really good. And he actually called to give me a few short sales for my wife who negotiates short sales. And he suggested that I mention this to everybody. He said, if any of your people on the call are struggling with being motivated to prospect consistently, he said, do what I did. He said, yesterday I went and checked all my 90-day-old leads, and it really aggravated me how many had recently listed. Then he said, I went back and checked my 6-month-old leads, and it really aggravated me how many of them had listed, sold, and closed already. So sometimes we're more motivated by loss, fear of loss than expectation of gain. So he said for him, that made him realize that he could do a lot better job. Aaron prospects so many different sources, not just probate, but he was struck with how many of his probate did something within that 6-month period. And we say it all the time, but I just thought I'd share that with you. If Aaron can be frustrated, as much as he prospects, I think we can all learn from it.
Hmm.
That's all I've
Absolutely.
got.
Absolutely. All right, guys, welcome in. It's good to see some new faces and some familiar faces. This is the All the Leads Mastermind. I'm glad to see those of you that are here live. If you're not here live, it means you're listening on the All the Leads YouTube channel or All the Leads Mastermind podcast. So if anyone's here and you want to be able to listen to these after the fact or go back and listen to some of the older calls maybe you've missed, those are two great places that you can do it. So if you're here live, you're on one of three platforms. You're either here on Zoom, which we appreciate, like to be able to see your faces. You're on Facebook live stream or YouTube live stream. Steve, good to see your face. um, if you guys are on one of the live streams on Facebook or YouTube, please chat your questions in underneath of the video. This is a open forum kind of Q&A style call. We're here to talk about the probate business, inherited properties, really anything that's life transition based. So we could talk about other things. It's just that we talk about probate a whole lot. So I am really happy to see all you guys here. I wanted to maybe start by briefly talking about those of you that are going to be prospecting and on the phone. I've been having role play calls a lot here recently, and we did a class for prospecting yesterday. And there's a lot of people that are feeling like they're messing up, like they're not ready for the phone. Okay. And I'm just going to tell you guys if you feel like you're not ready for the phone, there's no better way to get ready for the phone than to make phone calls. So sometimes you have to go out and mess up a little bit and and that'll help fix it. So I had an unrelated story, but an analogy that came to my mind earlier today on making calls. So several years ago, I was out with an old college roommate of mine and my good friend and real estate attorney here in the Raleigh area. We were out fishing and doing offshore fishing. So we were out fishing for striped bass offshore. And anyone that actually know we were fishing for king mackerel offshore. And if anyone has ever done offshore fishing, you know that a king mackerel does not typically put up a lot of fight. Doesn't normally fight a whole lot. It's usually a fight for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then it gives up and you reel it in. Well, this one day we got connected with a king mackerel and fought this thing for probably 40 minutes. And halfway through the fight, my attorney friend, he turns around to the captain and he goes, "Hey, I can't fight this anymore." He's sweating. He goes, "I can't fight this anymore. It's exhausting." We all started mocking and ridiculing him for giving up in the middle of a fish fight, especially with the king mackerel. If anyone here has fished, you know that you don't turn your pole over, the rod over to someone else on the boat without getting made fun of. So we made fun of him. And the captain of the boat took the pole, and about 10 or 15 minutes into it, the captain of the boat gave up and said, "This thing is fighting really hard." So we realized we got it in, and it was a tragic story. This is going to make this made me feel a little bit bad. We realized that the thing hadn't bitten our bait. It was just swimming along, and the hook hooked it in the side, and we were pulling it. We were basically dragging it, and it was, I feel sorry for the fish. But it was amazing because we were going through this experience where we were nobody could figure out why we were getting such a fight. And we're more catch and release for those of you that don't like to hurt animals. So we were definitely more catch and release. But here we were dragging this thing, and we wouldn't have known in the future to recognize when something like that had happened if we hadn't been through that experience. So, and we also wouldn't have known to be able to make adjustments in the future either. So after that long experience and my attorney fighting the thing for so long, the next fish that we caught, the captain of the boat immediately goes up and he says, "Bruce, you take this fish." And then he immediately goes up and he gets this harness out of the out from under the cabin of the boat. And he goes, "Bruce, use this harness." And everyone else that was there said, "You've had this thing the whole time and you just now thought to bring it out when Bruce got the easy fish." But it was an adjustment that was made that we never would have thought about or known about had we not gone through the trouble of trying to reel the big fish in that was side hooked. Okay. We never would have known. No one ever would have thought about using a harness to bring a fish in. Now, if you guys have gone offshore fishing, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you make adjustments after something bad happens. Same thing with our prospecting and our marketing. We make adjustments. Everyone's always asking, what's the perfect script? What's the perfect letter that goes out? How many letters do I need to send out? And the answer is you start, you get a sequence down, and if it's not working the way that you want, you make adjustments. Okay, that's the answer. There is no perfect approach for any one person. You start with a sequence. You start with a mail sequence. You start with a website. You start maybe putting some content out online in the form of YouTube videos or blogs. You start making calls. And as needed, you tweak and you adjust until you have something that works really, really well for you, your personality, and your market. Okay, so I want everyone to just get that in their head. Start. Don't try to perfect something out of the gate. It will frustrate you. Okay. Start and adjust. Start and adjust. And I recommend typically about every 3 months that you go in, you look at what you're doing and you make adjustments to it. And it's not going to take long before you guys are all really humming along. You've got businesses that are producing tons of leads, tons of people for the pipeline, appointments, closings. It won't take long, but you have to start. Okay. Now, for those of you that are new here, I want you to know that we do want to hear your questions. So if you're here in Zoom, go down to the bottom of the screen and raise your hand. We're going to call on you. If you're experienced here, you guys know the drill. I want to hear some questions today. George, thanks for putting your hand up. If you chat your questions in on YouTube, Facebook, or even here in Zoom, those are going to pop over to me in a channel that we're monitoring, and we'll be able to answer those questions. It's more than just me here on the call. I apologize to those of you that I kind of tend to dominate the airwaves. So Jim, Ken, and Tim are all going to interrupt me and chime in when they have an answer as well. Now, if there's anyone here that is not a member of All the Leads and you're looking for probate leads, pre-probate leads, divorce leads, marketing systems, websites, things like that, I want you guys to go check out alltheleads.com for your lead needs and your system needs and any mail house or mailing needs that you need as well. And Alyssa just posted that in the comments if you want to check that out. We would welcome you and encourage you to do that. So let's go to George first. George, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hey,
Yes, sir.
how can we help you?
Well, I noticed an ad that you had in a magazine years ago. I kept it and I called, and I was interested in the probate leads. So that's why I called after the Zoom meeting, maybe not today, but tomorrow I'll call in, and if I have any questions, I'll ask them. I'll ask them to you.
Great. Wonderful. Wonderful. Excellent. Is there anything about the process or anything like that that we could help with today?
Well, I'm new to this. I've done probates before, but people have called me to list their properties, and they've sold.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I just want more, to work more in this niche,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe some divorce leads also. Basically is, getting the leads, knowing what to say to them when you call them or when you write them a letter. That's basically it.
Yep. Excellent. So the idea of how you're going to start the conversation, and this could be on the phone or through the mail, ideally both. Okay. But some people aren't going to answer the phone, so they're going to read a letter. Some people don't keep your letters, but they do answer the phone. So that's why we like to say ideally both. The idea is you're offering a comprehensive type of service. You're helping with more than just let me put the house on the market or let me buy the property.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, that's your end goal, but you want to offer things that they need now so that if they're not ready or they have a tendency to be skeptical early, they can still take advantage of things. And I'll tell you that the biggest reason that I offer more of a comprehensive probate service, A to Z, so to speak, attorney connections, someone to cut the grass, clean the property out, really anything that they might go through. The reason I do that on the phone, especially, is because I know most people are going to be resistant in the early days. So the majority of people, they don't know you yet. They don't know the process. It's the first time they've gone through. So if they say, I've got it all handled, that's normal. And it gives me an area that they can reject something without it killing the real estate side of my business. So I let them resist the overall probate help. Okay. And then I use that to pivot into my real estate discussion. So I'd say something like, George, I really appreciate the time today. Keep my number. If you ever needed anything, you can call me. Hey, while I have you, George, can I ask, once probate's a little further along, is the family planning to hold on to the real estate that's being inherited, or are you guys thinking about selling? Okay, so it gives me the ability to prove to them that I'm not going to fight them on the objection they just gave me, and a chance to pivot into the real estate discussion without coming out of the gate, guns a-blazing, going for real estate. I'm not calling going, hey, I see somebody died. Let's sell the house. I don't want to be interpreted that way either. So I offer something that I know that they're more likely to need, but if they resist it, I accept their resistance and then pivot to real estate after.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Bruce is right. I mean, the sooner you can get into action, because if you take two prospectors and they have equally great conversation with the client, and one of them identifies an issue at the house that needs to be taken care of, like a estate sale, a clean out, carpet that needs to be replaced. And the one is passive and they just say, oh, we'll take care of that later. And the other one goes over there and gets them an estimate or sets them up with a probate estate planning team. They're going to win. They got into action. They've already demonstrated that they're willing to help the client and they're already in action. So why would the client, they're already interacting with this person. They already know them, like them, and trust them. So now why would they tell the other person like, oh yeah, I'm going to use you for the real estate, even though this person already helped me with the clean out of the house or repairs or anything else. So immediately identify the need and get into action as quickly as possible. And that actually also leads me back to last week, because I think about these conversations. We had a caller said, you know, do you go to your contractor and ask for money? And I said, no, I don't, because two reasons. You have people that inherited property and they want to get rid of it as quickly as possible to get to the cash value of the property. So they're so willing to give you that money in exchange for what they want, which is the cash. The contractor, on the other hand, he's like myself. He's working hard, hustling, trying to earn a living. So when I go to ask him for money, he doesn't like that, which is to be expected. And then when I come to him and I call him up and I'm like, hey, I need you at this property tomorrow. Or, hey, I need you to give me a great price on this flip that I'm buying myself personally. You know, I got to have this guy ready to answer the phone and want to accept my phone call, and, you know, being available to go to a property or to give me a great bid on a property. So if I'm asking him for money, people just don't like that. They're just not used, in my opinion. Again, if you guys, God bless you if you're able to get your contractors to give you money, but, you know, I want to treat my contractor like gold, because they're super easy to find. But if you find somebody good, you better hold on to that person and treat them really well and make sure that they get compensated fairly, so they want to answer the phone when you call.
Yep.
Hey, George, I feel compelled to mention, I want to thank you for that question, because Bruce is always telling, and we're always saying, you know, you got to vary your marketing. You got to try letters. You got to make the phone calls. You got to have a website. You never know what's going to work or how long it's going to take. You just responded to an ad we ran 3 years ago of a magazine sitting on your desk from 3 years ago. So we haven't advertised in that thing in a long time. So it drives home the point of you never know how long it's going to take or what's going to work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. I didn't even think of that. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Cool. So, hey, Jeremy chatted in a question, and those of you that are here, I want to see some hands go up. Bring your questions, basic, advanced, intermediate, doesn't matter. Bring your questions in. Jeremy chatted in a question. He's got a probate in California, and the source for this probate lead is a family member who is the listing agent. So, Jeremy, you say they want to wait for probate and you want to put it under contract now. Is there any advice or insight to consider? So, Jeremy, I'm going to ask, hopefully you're still listening and can chat your question underneath of this. Do they want to wait to open probate, or they want to wait until probate closes? So do they want to wait till they get approval from the court to open probate, or are they already in probate and they want to wait until it closes? In general, with exceptions, there are definitely exceptions to this. There's rights of survivorship on real estate title, but in general, the house needs to go into an estate and probate needs to be open before the family is going to be allowed to sell. Okay. Now, if they've already opened probate and they want to wait until probate closes and ends, that might be a long wait. I would probably try to lock it into a contract now. But legally, they can sign a contract, and that contract can be enforceable as long as the estate has been opened, probate has been started and approved by the court, and they don't have to have settled probate yet. Now, if they have not gone to the court and applied for probate and gotten approval, then any contract that you would sign right now is not going to be enforceable. They can sign it, but they're not signing on behalf of the estate. Okay, so if probate is opened, go ahead and lock it up as long as they're willing. If probate hasn't been opened yet, they may need to go apply for probate and get approval before you get a contract on it.
Yeah, and I would say back to what we were talking about, getting into action, finding a need. A lot of people don't want to sign a listing agreement until they actually have a court approval. But if you identify a need, if they do need an estate clean out, or if they need a trash out, if they need some contractors to go by, at that point I go, well, listen, if I'm going to put a lockbox on your house, my company's probably going to want to know why I'm doing that and giving people access to your home. I really can't do that through my company because of insurance without a listing agreement. So at that point, if you can get into action and they're trusting you to bring contractors over to help with things at the house, how can they refuse the listing agreement when you say, hey, I'm going to be letting people in and out of your home. I need to show my company that we're going to end up doing business together to justify why I'm taking on the liability of letting people in and out of your home. So again, to get into action, sign that listing agreement immediately when they want you to basically start representing them as far as getting the house cleaned out. Perfect time to sign. As far as Bruce said, he's right. They can't sign on behalf of the estate, but mentally now they've already signed a listing agreement. So they're mentally obliged to you. They know they're going to do business with you. So whether that's a valid contract or not is almost irrelevant, because in their mind, it's a valid contract, which is what makes it valid anyway. Because as we know, we can't force them to sell. So they've got to be committed mentally to you to actually validate that contract regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, I saw George put his hand back up. The one thing I was going to say is you need to also talk briefly about full authority versus not having full authority, because that's a factor in some states in regard to them being able to sign the listing agreement. Even if they've been appointed the PR, if they don't have full authority to do it, then they can't necessarily negotiate and sell.
So in California, and there could be a couple of other states, but this is primarily a California thing. You set up probate either with full authority that basically says you as the PR or the family can do whatever they want. Partial authority means that you have to go in front of the court and get approval on certain things. So it kind of goes back to what's enforceable and what's not enforceable. So can they sign a sale agreement for half of the value of the property? Yes. Can they sign it? Yes. But if they don't have full authority, the court might shut you down. So if they haven't opened probate yet, you want them to open with full authority. A lot of times, California is loaded with partial authority probate cases. A lot of times that's because that's the way that the attorney sets it up with the court. There's not a lot of really great reasons for partial authority. It kind of really limits the family's autonomy and making decisions, because the court has to approve sales and different things like that. So if they haven't opened probate, try to get them to open with full authority, and then they'll have the ability to make their own decisions. If it's partial authority, it's going to have to go in front of the court. So even if they did sign a sale agreement, the court has the right to refuse or approve that agreement to sell.
And be aware that the attorney may be the one who tried to get them or wants to get them to open it without full authority, because that continues to have the attorney involved in it. And depending on the relationship of the attorney to the case, the attorney may be charging for any actions that he takes in regard to the estate. So partial authority is potentially beneficial to the attorney because it creates billings for them. Yep. And I'm not trying to demean attorneys. Most attorneys are very ethical and honest. And the other side of it is that occasionally someone will be appointed as the personal representative who the court may feel is potentially not going to operate in the best interest of the family, and or that they don't have the capability to do such a thing, or the estate is extremely large. A lot of reasons that the court will want to potentially have an intercessory role where they do want to see everything. So there are reasons occasionally why that'll happen, but like Bruce said, if you have the opportunity to weigh in, always weigh in on making sure that the person that you're talking to has full authority. And California is the only state that I know of that specifically it's there. There are some local municipalities that also have the same issue. So we've seen it from time to time, but we know that it's definitely a factor in California.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all. I wanted to make sure we got that out before we kind of let it rip. And you can go ahead and talk to George now and ask him to unmute.
Okay, George, I'm going to call on you in 2 seconds, and you can go ahead and unmute yourself. You are off mute. Good. Susan asked, and I want to ask, I'm not going to answer this question, but I want to put it out to the group. Does anyone have a great resource where you can donate land and get a tax write-off?
I'll answer that, Bruce. My own personal experience, Habitat for Humanity, is I had a really good experience with them. I was flipping a house years ago, and it had an adjacent lot, and I sold the house. I listed the lot, and they came in with an offer, and they did a really nice job of saying what they do. And they said, we'd be okay if you just sold it to us for nothing, but and I explained to him, this many years ago, I'm a struggling realtor. No, I paid for it. I didn't inherit it. But it was funny. I think at the time, I don't think they were the highest offer, and I chose them because they convinced me they were going to do something good with it.
Mm-hmm.
And my perception is they have a pretty good screening process for finding somebody who's going to take care of the house and just needs a helping hand. And so they take the land, they build a free house, and they give a family the keys to the house. So I just, in my own experience, I'd recommend them highly.
Okay.
Other key thing to remember about that is that you definitely, if it's a significant piece of land and you're doing it for the tax credit, you need to be talking with your attorney. There are legal issues there. Typically, you can only claim up to 50% of your adjusted gross income as a tax credit, and you need to get with a CPA and an attorney if you're doing it to maximize your the tax implications. And the good news for you, it's that the other company that I know of that does it is Cars for Kids. They will certainly do that, and they will work with you to get the tax donation. However, on their website, the one thing that I noticed because I did some quick looking when you asked the question, they're not explaining to you that, they kind of alluded to the fact that you can donate the land and get full value on your taxes and all that. Not necessarily the case. There are certain requirements that won't allow you to get all of that. You need to make sure that you're getting the best advice you can. Anything having to do with your taxes, don't just willy-nilly go throw something at it and let it go. But I certainly agree with Jim. Habitat for Humanity is a great place to work, and they do wonderful things for that, and they'll make the best use of your donation if they can use it in your market. It depends on where it is.
Yep.
Very good. Excellent. All right, let's go to George. George, go right ahead.
Thank you. So I just want to get the steps right. It's if a property owner dies, the next of kin would have to make an estate or create an estate before it could go to probate, correct?
No. Setting up probate is the approval to open the estate. So you apply for probate first. Okay. If there is a will, you're applying for probate. I don't want to get in the weeds on this, so I'm just going to give a brief description. If there's a will, you take the will to the courthouse, copy the death certificate, you apply for probate. Okay. You are probating the will. Okay. If there's no will, you go apply for letters of administration, or you apply for administration. It's the same process. It's a different application. Now, some of you guys are going to be in a county where the application is the same, but in general, probate is when there's a will. Administration is when there's not a will. From that point forward, it's basically the same process. The court will approve. It's usually based on a hearing date. So the clerk doesn't say you're approved, go open an estate. The clerk says, here's your court date. You go before the judge or the magistrate, and they approve you to open probate and open an estate. They'll give you a letter that says, called a letters testamentary. They'll give you a letter. You open the estate with that letter.
Thank you.
Yep. And at that point, you're allowed to sell things in general. Occasionally, there's some restrictions given by the court. But in general, you're allowed to start selling and disposing of things. All right, definitely. Saw another hand up. It's down. I don't know who had put their hand up. That was Terry. Terry, if you still have a question, pop your hand back up. Go right ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, just in regards to donating land, I used to be on the board of a land trust in Maine. Pardon me. And we were always looking for people to put it in their will, or maybe who part of an estate to donate land. It can be for trails, or maybe a wildlife refuge, or maybe for research, or something nonprofit related. And yes, it's a good Tim's point about checking with your tax attorney or whoever is important. But I would check with land trusts or nonprofits. I think Habitat's a great one, but depending on where the land is, I would check with local land trusts.
Outstanding. Very good.
And
Thank you.
environmental associations.
Right.
Yeah. Good. Thank you so much, Terry. Great advice. This is over my head, so I'm glad to have somebody who's done this before. Kristen, go ahead, unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I put in the chat, but I think I had to switch over, so it might have went away. But I have a probate that I have come across, and I'm trying to figure out how best to deal with this scenario. So the father died with no will.
Mhm.
And the PR, well, I guess she's an administrator because she hasn't formally opened a probate, but they did do the list of heirs. So
Mhm.
there are 4 children as far as that's concerned. So they all own a portion of this house. One of the other siblings has taken over the house, and she refuses to let any of them in, and she refuses to do anything, but she is paying the mortgage.
Mhm.
But the other 3 want to sell.
Okay.
And everything has gone into the administrator's name as far as for tax purposes. So can I get the 3 under contract and open escrow and then try to get the 4th to talk to me who's actually in the house? Because I can't get to the house to see the condition. So, I kind of told them we'll have to assume that it needs a lot of work until we can get in there. But how do you approach that when, I don't want to say she's squatting, but she doesn't fully own the house.
Mhm.
So how do you approach that is what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. Good question. I'm glad that you came in and popped your hand up, because I was trying to figure out how to answer your chatted question, and I needed that context. So, the administrator has court approval to administer the estate, correct? The court's given letters of administration. Oh, sorry, you're back on mute. Let me ask you to unmute yourself.
There we go. Okay. So this is very strange. So she did the list of heirs and that's it. She didn't do the full probate.
Mhm.
So I don't think she technically has a right to sell, because what it sounds like is all 4 of them have to agree, but they can sell because that's the only asset they have is the house.
Not 100%. She needs court approval. So, they don't all have to agree. It can be a court order.
But they would have to get an attorney. I think that's her concern, is
Has
she
it
doesn't
been
have
filed? Kristen, has it actually been filed as a probate?
So the strange thing is I pulled the court records to send my postcards. So she got one of my postcards, but she said she didn't file probate. She just did the list of heirs.
That's because there's no will. So, and this is going to go back to the other thing that I said to George when I didn't want to get in the weeds. Okay.
Sorry, I got you in the weeds.
You're good. You're good. If there is no will, technically, there's no will, they don't apply for probate. Okay. Now, everyone is in a different municipality, and some of your municipalities are going to say just apply for probate. That's fine. So you follow whatever the municipality's rules are. But probate, the technical definition is you're applying to probate a will. So if there's not, in a lot of places, it's a different application. Same process. You still have to go in front of the court and present your paperwork and your supporting documents to the judge or the magistrate, and then they're going to approve you to go ahead and open up the estate and administer it. At that point, if 3 people want to sell the property, the judge, with or without a lawyer, will likely issue an order to sell the property or to be bought out. So this 4th person is most likely going to have to buy out the other 3 siblings, but you're going to need a court order. Now, if you want to circumvent that, you might go knock on the door or call the lady and basically present yourself as a neutral third party. This is what I do. I don't know if you're in communication with your siblings. You know that she's not. So I would probably say I'm not sure if you're in communication. Just wanted to see if you guys were all on the same page. Or you wanting to keep the house? She's probably going to say yes. Okay. I thought that they might want to sell. Is there any circumstance that you would consider selling? So you play peacemaker and neutral third party. If it doesn't look like that's going to happen, the other 3 siblings are going to need a court order to sell the property, or for the person that wants to keep the house to buy them out of their interest. But the court will most likely, the court is going to side with the heirs. She's going to have to buy them out. Okay.
And that's what I told them. So, okay. So could I go under contract with the 3 for them to
Not
present
enforceable. Can you?
Right,
yes.
right.
It's
I
not
can't
enforceable.
close until I get the 4th on board.
Right.
But could I start? Well, what I told the administrator is that I want the 3 of you to agree on a price before I talk to the 4th. But you're kind of saying go to the 4th first, or like that's the part I'm trying to. The timing of it is where
I would go to the 4th first, but you could do it either way. I've done
Okay.
it both ways. I've had siblings like this that didn't get along. I've signed contracts and then gone to the party that doesn't want to sell. I've gone to the party that doesn't want to sell first. There's no perfect way to do it. I would probably, if it was me right now, I'd probably go to the party that doesn't want to sell, that's trying to stay in the house first.
Okay.
But I don't think you're wrong by getting a contract signed with the 3. Just know that it's not really going to go anywhere. It can't go anywhere.
Right.
They can sign, but they
you need that
can't really
last
do
one.
anything. That's why I think I'd go talk to the.
It also will help if you have done something like that. It will also, not necessarily the contract, but if you already have the other 3 people in agreement that at a reasonable price point, that also gives you some ability to have a conversation with that 4th person to discuss, what their aspect or their take on those proceeds might be, and it would help you identify what their circumstances are. The other side of it is that you might be able to also talk with them about offering an incentive to the 4th person to help them relocate, do some other stuff. There are lots of angles that you can play there. The more you know about it, the better off you're going to be. It also solidifies your position as a counselor and advisor to the family in terms of getting this done. But oftentimes offering relocation assistance is what it would take to get that done with less strife and easier handled. So take some portion of the proceeds that's going to come out of it, let them all kick in a little bit to help whoever's still living in the house move somewhere else.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Cash for keys is a great opportunity right here. If she may be holding out for a little bit more of a share of the estate, she might be holding out because she's emotional and grieving. Could be holding out because she just doesn't want to move. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. This is
Yeah, it's been 3 years apparently, and that was the part which was interesting. But I was thinking I would approach her with the lens of what her proceeds would be, which given that it's not that big of a house, so she would get about 15,000 or so out of that share, and maybe realizing that hopefully that would entice her to want to leave, and it should be enough for her to move somewhere.
I think opening that dialogue is a good idea, just to start getting her to think about, like, where would you move if when this does happen, where would you go? Do you have any family maybe not family, but do you have anybody you could move in with? Would you think about getting a room? Would you think about getting a place for rent? At least get her mind in that frame to start thinking about where she's going. Because right now she might be so entrenched and like, I'm not moving, and not even beginning to acknowledge that it probably will happen. So, start guiding her down the path that you want her to go down.
Okay.
It's gonna
Thank you.
happen. Now it won't happen if they don't get a court order, but a court is going to give the order if they pursue it. So the three
Does
siblings.
that usually take a lot of time for the court to go through that process?
It depends on where you are.
That's
Virginia.
on the backlog of the courtroom. The other
Okay.
thing, is there an attorney involved in this at all? Kristen, do
No.
they have an attorney?
No, she can't afford one. So she just had the attorney do the list of heirs, but that was the extent of what she did.
Well, the only reason I was asking the question is that, you may, depending on I'm sorry, but where are you located? You may have said, and I didn't hear.
Virginia.
Okay. I mean, you may find that there are issues to deal with there that an attorney, at least an hour of an attorney's time, if there is anything that you need to know about that circumstance, or I mean, there's something nagging at me about this that it seems like we may be missing some information here, and I can't tell you why I said that. I don't have something. If I could think of it, I would tell you what it is, but it's like there's something missing there. Why is this person still living in the house? Was she the youngest in the family? Did she take care of the people who lived there before? Do you know that?
Yes, it sounds like there's some contention there, but the dad whose house it was, he put her out before he passed, and one of the other siblings was living there, and after he passed, she put him out, and she's been living there ever since. So that was 2021. And in talking to the administrator, I've told her that, well, we're going to have to get her to agree. And she's just like, she's not going to agree. She's not going to agree. She sounds like she's combative from at least what it sounds like of their dynamics. So I'm not sure. I think it may just be a power thing. Apparently the mom was there and she's now in a rehab facility and scared to go back to the house. So the administrator thinks there's some other stuff going on with fraud because she
Is there equity? Because you're saying they can't afford.
Yes.
Okay, because you're saying they can't afford to pay an attorney, and I think a lot of attorneys would get paid, when the real estate closed, and then you would be aligned with the attorney to make that happen. I mean, I have one. I'm going to go meet with the attorney on Tuesday. Had lunch with him, but I got the house sold. And then I doubled back to talk to him about the piece of land. And I said, hey, would you prefer if this gets sold? I know I would. And he said, yes, he would. So I have the attorney now calling the client to talk to them about, like, why hasn't this land sold? Maybe you need a price reduction. So we're perfectly in alignment. But
I did reach out to the attorney who did the list of heirs. And of course, she wouldn't talk to me other than to say she's not representing her anymore. But that was what I was thinking about, of maybe this is an opportunity to get in the door with the attorney, but how would I approach that if she's not, retained by her anymore? To just go to the attorney's office and say, hey, I know you had this individual at one point and we may need to come back to you to assist with the sale of the house.
I think you need to get with the heirs and say, hey, we do need to re-enlist the services of an attorney. I know you can't pay up front, but if we can have them do it pro bono with the equity of the house, then you have a conversation, because they might have told the attorney, hey, we have no more money, so we can't enlist your services, but through the equity, somebody will probably take that case.
Okay.
And there definitely are attorneys who will, if the attorney that you're dealing with won't do it, then there definitely are attorneys who will certainly wait to get paid until probate closes. But like I said, you kind of answered my nagging questions were sort of those. It was obvious there was more to this than, it's just kind of a slight issue of contention. You said there may be fraud and drugs and all kinds of stuff involved in this. And, there's going to have to probably be an attorney retained to put some petition together to the court to evict this person to get them out. Even when it happens, they're going to probably have to evict them. So this is not going to be, there's enough hair on this deal that you're going to probably need to get an attorney involved.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Okay.
not pursue, and I think you're providing good service to the family. You know, maybe one of the best things you could do is help them find an attorney who would in fact work with you on that to make that happen. That, you know, somebody who'd wait for closing. That's a great service to the family and kind of locks you in to make sure that you're the person that gets the benefit out of this when it's done.
Well, and that way you also know you have a little pressure on this lady to move her out, because again, if you have no leverage, then why even try to make it happen? You know, if you run into a dead end where you can't find an attorney to help you to get the leverage to move her out, then I would say it's a foregone conclusion, or it's probably not worth your time. But if you can get some
Okay.
leverage from the law to actually get the lady out, then you have something there.
Yep.
Well, yeah, actually, the attorney, when she did do the list of heirs, she did send the sister a letter to try to get a key, and the sister responded that no one's getting a key. So they kind of left it at that. But yes, this
Yeah.
gives me some ideas. So I think I can go with trying to find another attorney.
Okay,
And
because I've gone down this rabbit hole before, and the way we pursued it, we actually served an eviction to the son in the house. And then it turns out when we double back to the attorney, so don't make the same mistake I did. The attorney said we can't evict him because he's an heir as well.
Mhm.
As Bruce said, the proper way to do it is go to the court, get a court order, and then you have the law on your side.
Mhm.
We prematurely tried to evict the son, and it didn't work.
Yep. Chris's
Okay.
arm is probably getting pretty tired here.
Thank
Chris's
you.
arm
What's going on here,
and
Kristen?
living. Hold on 1 second before Chris. Living in Ventura's arm is getting a virtual arm is getting really tired as he chatted in a question. I said one lead has told you that it's her and two other beneficiaries that are all going to be personal representatives. Is this a real thing? Occasionally it's real. Normally what they mean is that they're not all going to share legal personal representative duties, but they're all on the exact same page and they're all going to be making decisions together. So whether they're legitimately three personal representatives, each assigned as PR on the file or not, it doesn't really matter. It's just three people who are unanimously making the decisions. It's unlikely that they will all three be a personal representative. It's probably going to be one of the three of them. I have seen two before. I don't think I've seen three, but it doesn't really matter. They're on the same page making decisions together. All right,
Well,
Chris.
and she's in California, and I think you could probably go and see how it was filed. If the lead came from us, you would see the document and there would be a PR appointed. We wouldn't pick one automatically. We'll give you the personal representative. So if you actually are, you know, we've already proofed it out. If you got the lead from us, don't know where you got it, but you know, the document from the court will tell you who the personal representative is legally assigned to it. And particularly in California, they're pretty sticklers about that. So
Great. All right, perfect. Chris, you should be able to unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Hi there.
Hey.
On the previous concern, the courts are going to be loath to throw somebody out of a house who's an heir. That's my opinion. In Massachusetts, which is where I practice, you should in fact attempt to find an attorney to pose the question about foreclosure, because I know of a situation where exactly this, one of the heirs moved into the house and wasn't budging, and the other heirs had to actually foreclose on the occupant to get their interest back.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so that's going to require a specific attorney. What type of attorney did you work with or find
Really
to
wasn't
help?
it wasn't my transaction, but any real estate attorney should be familiar with foreclosure.
Got it. Okay.
what did they foreclose? Was there a mortgage that they're foreclosing?
They foreclosed
no,
on
no.
the joint interest in the property.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, that's an interesting thought for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
Anything else
Steve-
we can do for you? That was really good. Jim, go ahead. Then
Yeah,
Chris.
Steve Carney had a interesting perspective. He said you could always use probate cash. Like the 2 or 3 heirs that are on board could go to probate cash and get the money to buy the other one out.
You can't do it if there's no will.
Pay the
Jim.
attorney. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no
Say that
will.
again, Tim.
There's no will.
Ah, okay.
Not
If
a
they
will,
will,
there's nothing. Probate cash can't advance the fund. There has to be a proof of funds on closing, and there isn't any document that they could attach to perfect that. It's a great idea for sure.
Yeah,
And
if there were
anytime
will, that's
will,
great
probate cash can advance funds.
good point. Okay, thank you.
This is not about the money.
No, it's not about the money.
Absolutely
Right.
correct.
Yep, not about the money. All right. Cool. One more chatted in question than George. The other chatted in question, and I think we may have answered this, but just in case. So, Jack, when you call for the lead for the first time, what's the script that you use? A lot of different script approaches that you can use. A whole lot. I'm going to talk more about the attitude that you use. So you've got 2 different characters that you can play when you call a lead for the first time. So character number 1 is the friend character. It would be, Jack, hey, Bruce Hill over at XYZ. How's it going? Friendly, almost like they know you. All right, that's one character, and I will give a basic script after this. Character number 2 is everyone knows that there's a big elephant in the room, and that elephant in the room is that they don't know you and it's a cold call. So character number 2 is the character that points to the elephant in the room. I was looking for Jack May. Jack, my name's Bruce Hill at XYZ Probate Solutions. I don't think we know each other. I know this call's random. Could I take a quick minute and tell you what I was calling for? Okay, point to the elephant in the room. Either one of those are fine. It's going to be up to you as a person and personality and your market to figure out which one of those styles, which one of those characters you're going to play. Now, there legitimately are about 4 or 5 different scripts I've used to open a call. If you have not taken Probate Foundations, go to alltheleads.com and click on training and drop down to courses and sign up for the free Probate Foundations class. There is a script opening in Foundations that you can use. There's a whole bunch of them, and I couldn't go over all of them, but I like to be able to present the idea of a concierge or a turnkey probate service. Helps with the entire process. And then I'll say, is there anything I could take off your plate, or do you have everything handled? They will probably say they have everything handled. I'll validate them. That's good to hear. Can I ask a question? Once probate's a little further along, are you thinking about selling any real estate, or are you going to keep it in the family? So that's the basics, nuts and bolts of the script approach that I use, but there's a lot of different ways that you could do it. You could go straight after real estate out of the gate. A lot of different things you could do. Foundations will give a good opening script, though. All right, George.
Hi. Well, my question was when the other thing was going on, the discussion of the 4 heirs and all that. I noticed that she said that one of them is still paying the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it that that person's paying the mortgage? Is that person on the mortgage? Will that affect the probate if they are? Are they on the deed? Will that, how will that affect it? And I understand that if you live in a property for at least in Florida, for 7 years, and you pay the taxes, even that if it's not your property, as long as you pay your taxes for 7 years, that property goes, that property will belong to you.
Mm-hmm. Squatter's rights.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So that's what my question really was about, about the mortgage. There's a mortgage and the person's paying for the mortgage. I'm sure that the taxes and insurance are included in the mortgage.
Well, the bank has probably not called the mortgage due because they're getting their money. If the bank was aware that the owner has passed, they may call the mortgage due. They could. I wouldn't alert them to the fact because it would be really bad for everyone if the house was foreclosed. So she's probably just paying the mortgage on the mother's behalf at this point, and nobody's any wiser. The bank doesn't know. They're getting their money. They don't care. They're not looking into it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
the bank could force them to sell, I believe, but like you said, they more than likely wouldn't if they're getting their payments. You know, they don't have a problem as long as their money keeps flowing in.
Mm.
But I think if they called the mortgage due in full, then there would be no alternative but to sell.
Trigger us that would typically, under most circumstances, cause people to sell, but this lady doesn't sound like she's going to cooperate. So you need.
And it was in foreclosure, and apparently what Kristen said at the very end in chat was that there were some questionable documents sent around that because it was in foreclosure that was trying to get, I guess, somebody else to pay for it or whatever. So this thing's there's a lot of hair all over this deal for sure.
Mhm.
Hey, before we go, I know Alyssa had one thing that she wanted to quickly discuss here in regard to one of the promos we've got going, and I don't want to get off the call until we do that. So let's let Alyssa do that real quickly.
Thank you. Yeah, really quickly, I just wanted to remind everybody that we do still have a website promo going on right now that is $50 off of any credibility website that we offer. That can also go towards adding, if you are looking to add our MLS IDX listing module onto your site, or if you have any custom work that you've been wanting to add to your site, that $50 can go towards that if you do already have a current site. Otherwise, $50 towards setting up any new site. And then we also have our premium pages on buy one, get one free. Those are things like team pages, testimonial pages. We've got the service hub page, a video gallery page, and a couple of other options, including some pop-ups and squeeze pages and things like that. So if anybody has been on the fence about getting their website set up, now would be the time. This is one of the biggest discounts that we normally would offer on a website. So $50 off. Make sure to contact support@alltheleads.com or call our team at 844-532-3369, and we'll be happy to take care of you.
And Alyssa, that's only good through the end of the month, right? Or is it good?
Yep, end of the month. So next Wednesday, the 31st, is when that promo ends. So definitely get on it.
Cool deal.
Excellent. All right. Jim.
All right. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I want to thank those that actively participated. George, you can throw that 3-year-old magazine away. It served its purpose. Please email us, support@alltheleads.com, call the office, or you can actually go on our website on CRISPR and chat with our salespeople. So make sure you do that. I want to thank everybody else who actively participated. I want to challenge each of you, take one idea that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Same time next Thursday. Take care.